All right, so we are live on YouTube as well. Hi, Laura. Good morning. Good morning, Colleen on YouTube. We miss you. Hi, Karen. Hello, everyone. So for those of you who weren't in the Kadampa a few minutes ago, we are taking a collection of brand new in the package socks and underwear. Brand new and in the package for obvious reasons. And this is in collaboration with Kadampa Center and Note in the Pocket, hey Don, a nonprofit organization. So we need boys and girls sizes, all sizes, socks and underwear, as well as men and women sizes. They can be dropped off just as you came through the glass doors to enter the Kadampa Center. There's a black bin with a red lid. You can put them right in there. Thank you so much for your donation. And you can do that at any time. Swing on by, do some circumambulation while you're here. And Dawn has arrived, so we'll get started in just a moment. They have to be new and in the package. Okie doke. So Dawn's gonna do prostrations. I'm just repeating what you're saying, Dawn, since you're not mic'd up yet. Feel free to join in if you would like.
So if you ever watch, like Kinsa Rinpoche, Lama Zopa, a lot of these great teachers, and I'm not including myself in that group by any stretch, but they do, before they sit down, if you notice, they snap their fingers. Anybody ever notice that? Yeah, they do that. It's to remind them that they could die before they got off the seat, that life is impermanent, and not to get arrogant or puffy about the fact that they're getting a chance to teach. So good reminder. All right, I'm wired up. Good morning. So the plan is to do the prayers, then maybe a couple of minutes of, we'll do the prayers. Since we don't have a lot of time, usually, we'll go ahead and launch into the teachings by Khensa Rinpoche. How's that sound? Like a plan. Oh, by the way, I got this, just drove by my house a moment ago, just got back from the coast, and this is the Wall Street Journal, came out, lifelong, the real secret of lifelong fulfillment. And if it's a Wall Street Journal, it must be right. Yeah? Anyway, we'll touch on it. All right, so let's do the prayers.
Which ones do you want to start with?
We'll do refuge, bodhicitta, four measurables, seven limb prayer, just all the usual ones. I think they start on page 30 something.
Sorry,
What page is it?
I think it's 32.
All right.
But the one that I'm sharing on screen, y'all be patient. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Is it the same
Page
one?
34, yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, so again, remembering, as I touched on last time, your motivation for the prayers is dread of what the consequences of having lived with a mind out that's kind of whacked out. We're all, as the Buddha said, all worldlings are deluded. That's us, and we don't want the consequences of living with a mind like ours. And then also faith or confidence that we have the ability to transcend the limitations of our deluded mind, and also confidence in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and our ability to actually manifest that in our lives. So we're really taking refuge in our own Buddha potential, in a sense. Then, of course, compassion. So that's the attitude that we should have as we say these prayers, as we begin these prayers. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. And then the mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as the Buddha feel and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kamnayata Yami. Now, let's Again, take a couple of minutes, not more than a couple, and just focus on the breath. Use the breath as the focus. Again, you could do the 9-round breathing or count your breath or just be aware of your breath going in and out of your nostrils. But just to bring your mind, sort of let the discursive mind take a break, take a rest, and focus on one point. So generally speaking, our instinct is is very self-centered and focused on me, I, my happiness, what I want, what I don't want, and all of that. And the key factor in karma and the motivation, and that's why it's important to set a positive, or at least the most, excuse me, the most sort of amazing motivation we can have for spiritual practice, which would be to do it for others, which is totally antithetical to the way we're wired. But to think, based on some sense of universal love and compassion, which doesn't just happen instinctively. We have to practice to develop that. But based on that, whatever degree we have some sense of love and compassion for ourselves and others, we aim to eliminate all of our faults and develop our qualities as much as possible in this life and then future lives. So we aim for this exalted state, which seems like impossible. How could I ever do that? But still, it's an attitude that I must. To be able to truly help others, I have to get my act together. I have to fully develop my compassion, my wisdom, my power, my skillful means. I have to fully develop that to be able to truly make profound impact on others. And who can do that? Only a Buddha can do that. So I must aspire to supreme enlightenment as much as possible in order to benefit others. Just let that aspiration, may not resonate for you, but if to the degree that it does, let it sit with it for just a moment. So that attitude is what distinguishes the practice that we do here, which is in the Tibetan Mahayana tradition, from other practices that are not that there's anything wrong with any other spiritual tradition. People benefit from all different ones, but the Mahayana Buddhist perspective is definitely other-oriented. And interestingly, the byproduct of focusing on others' happiness is that ours just happens by the way. Just is the byproduct. So it's kind of cool. Without striving for our own well-being, it happens. Without striving for happiness, it just happens. So relax your concentration, and let's watch the video.
So last week we covered stanza 1 and 2. Do you want me to start it at stanza 3 today? Okay.
Yeah, if you can.
And then secondly, just let me know if you want to pause it like after each stanza, or if you want to just go through the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. Y'all bear with me for a moment.
Well, I'll read this part to you while she's doing this. It says, the real secret of lifelong fulfillment. In its 85 years and counting, the Harvard study on adult development has found that personal connections are the most important factor in long-term health and happiness.
Shalom said that Rocha Yandu, so Pan Rogino, Chin Rogino, Nye de Yonada, Shabuda de Yonada, Karina, Rogic Cemetery, Tache Yabuchego, recitation this.
Next stanza, number 3, please.
3. Vigilant, the moment a delusion appears in my mind, endangering myself and others, I shall confront and avert it without delay.
Does it say like deed or behavior? What is it?
And this is page 161 of the prayer book.
Can you repeat it one more time, please?
Vigilant, the moment a delusion appears in my mind, endangering myself and others, I shall confront and avert it without delay. That's not.
Yeah.
If you're online,
number 3, Cholam literally
access this from the Kadampa Center website.
Actions or deeds. So I was wondering, that's why I'm checking with Hamula if there's in English language. Cholam, that could be like sleeping, eating, walking, just going around. Through all our conduct, whatever the conduct might be, sleeping, eating, walking, talking, it's very important to analyze your mind, your attitude, your mindset. Okay.
Tache Shaya de Shara Kechemores, Rogel Sell Tache Shaya de Shara Kechemores, Kari Sejuna, Sell Tache Chene Macheva, Roruso Kansomba de Chejagina, Techen and Desire, Mare Tache Chene Macheva, Roruso Sell Somba de Chejagina, Te Yabu Tawanini Yomares, Hakudarova, Yabu Tawanini Yomares, so Kari Dishina. 소소가 소마 너지 제가 말페나 장소이나 파로디 소노텔라 따가르 소소 소모텔라 따가르마도 소소 소노 치볼라 따자게이나 소소 소노 치볼라 따자게이나 아니 가르쳐가로 더 많이 받아서 더 강가 용거 요래서.
So the reason behind why one should check one's attitude or like thought, if you just act without analyzing your thought, or more likely it's going to get you into trouble. So for example, if you're a couple, so also you need to think, you need to also think about what your partner is thinking. It's not just, you can't just act like everything you think, then it's not good, it'll lead into trouble.
근데 소소를 가르쳐 가로다. 참선을 전에 용식을 해서 그러봐. 소소소소를 노도 용에서 참선을 전에 용식을 해. 이나요 될 소속 따제제네 되니 내가 말해 소속은 따제제네 레전드로 손노동 남의 레도 되니 그 손노동내로 도서 강로로 파 롱년마다 파샤가레스
The point here that we should not act on every thought that rise. It's very important to analyze because sometimes your thought just like causes by like superstitious and like something, some maybe diluted mind. So if you act on that, that's not good. So that's why we must analyze our thought.
eng이 가서는 시사에 마스 무서도 이나요 통보 야보치 제거레스 서도 이나 통보 야보치 제거레스 대능원의 소소소소가 너무 떠서 통보 야보치 제거레데 대시가 자와데 대시가 자와데 통보 야보치 해야 돼 제당에서 로로 못마 로트네 레선 떠서 파자네 통보 야보치 제거는 대시가 자와데 개성의 저로서 시사에 마스 어때 통보면은 보고도 설아 쉬보여 말해 소소 보고버도 설아 쉬보여 말 텔 소노톤에 당에 로텔 데네 칠레소제 테타원에 제 녀사 말에서네 텔로데 파카가레스
Yeah. So here the key to happiness is like getting along within the family, within the couples. This is the root for the happiness. So therefore, one should not act every thought that rise. So it's very important to analyze the thought because the root of the happiness is getting along. Getting along. That's how you say getting along? Yeah.
다 너도 제가이나 소로 소소 셀 따제 제네네 녀모마 너자이나나 셰동이나나 또미이나나 녀모마도 되니 레소나 롱서파과네 단디 밀로데 용치지메마든 디 소소요 메바체 바로보다요 메바체 그래 나제 마루 제베나 세르바 소소요 마루와 제그레 바로보다라 마루와 제그레 소네라 아니 슈자네 테파도가레스
So that in any occasions, there's a reason behind why you should analyze your mind very carefully because there's always risks. The delusional thought do occur, such as like anger, attachment, jealousies. So that's why you should be very careful to examine your mind when those disturbing thoughts rise. So you should try all your best to stop them. But otherwise, the result will be not good for you, not good for others. There will be no good result.
아 소소가 이제는 녀모바시네 바로바 마루바 제제 가리나 소소 전에 도바시시고요래 살라마소 대송고요래 소소를 녀모바시네는 다제 마루셰베나서 로로 소소 마루와 셰그레마 바로바데냐 마루와 가리 셰그레 소소 도바시시고래 소 녀모셰사데 소소 예나 바로바데 마루와 셰시고요래 소소도 녀모바티 롱네라 샤왕녀바티 제 아니 바로바데도 문터마이자 바로바데가 텔르치 레자 데네체는 녀모바 강가서 용거래서
Some Lama said that this kind of question could rise. Some Lama says, why? Because me having a delusional thought, why that happened to do with somebody else is my thought. So why the other person get disturbed? So that kind of like question, there's possibility that kind of question could rise. Why like I'm the one who's having negative mind? Why that my friend is like impacted by my negative thought. No.
내가 뱀모세 바테레 나로서가 녀모바텔라 자체네 따야 파자네 녀모바텔로 로바치 조체네 로고요 그래서 나로서 단다 빼나 내자세 세소네 예치를 세바체 그래라 텔라 자쇼체네 대어레 머레다네 티게 된다로 다네 샤와나마라 모보체 용거요 그래서 제당아 나로서 녀모투서 때소로 나로서 다 삐삐장 노지시 따고요 그래서 텔라 다타 토고요 말해서 그봐 삐삐장 노지시 되게 소마노지 제토소는 소소 로데보 제마토는 로마데와 되네 용거요 그래서
So now reason like or why like we haven't looked at like such as like ignorance, anger, attachment as an enemy. We always treated them like our close relationship. So we do all kind of things when when you become like angry. So then when you become attached to something, we do all kind of things to fulfill that thought. So we should look at them as like something is dangerous or enemy, but we haven't done that long time.
세상에 다른 예모만나 들리 시그래를 변 문에 돈에 그 슈 체빈고를 대파 노다 제가라마도 텔레 자쇼존에 대하여 말해서
So it requires strong effort to challenge them, challenge disturbing thought. Whenever that rise, it requires strong effort to challenge them. So you should not become friend with them. Need to challenge, and that requires strong effort.
이제 저로서 소소소소를 예모 같은 시그래 간이된도 대소 따기 전에 대데모래 좀 따셨어.
Yeah, you can analyze. You don't have to look too far away. So whenever the disturbing thought occurs, and you yourself analyze what happens and how hard it is to challenge.
배나 예모 같아도 카테 전에 소소소소 그 라마케 봐. 예모 같은 거 우르마 레소나 우네 소자가레세 라마 소테요레스.
Even though you are like wrestling, just say like if you're wrestling with the disturbing thought, so some point maybe you go underneath, when the wrestling, when you go down, so you lost. So even though when you go down, you need to bite from the down, just to win. That like great Lama says something like that.
이제 바이나 가로서 파세 자레 쇼소는 소세나 자사라 따그러 봤어. 이제 바이나 바로 다테도 타그래라 소세나 자사라 뭐라 따고 따그러. 대노제 녀모 발라 테네 따고 그래서 배텔레전에 가로서 손보여 그래서.
Yes, this is very good example. So for example, when you get into fight with someone else, yeah, you or even try to bite them, to sake of winning. So if you need to bite, you will probably bite that person. Similarly here, you are having battle or wrestling with the disturbing thought. If you go down, so probably need to, whatever sake of winning, whatever you need to do, if you need to bite, even though you are down there, you need to bite.
So, Don, that ends stanza 3. Do you want to pause for a moment? Okay. Don, I'm sorry to interrupt, but for those of you online, if you go to Kadampa Center's website, kadampa-center.org, and then just type in 8 verses of thought transformation in the search box in the top right corner, you'll be able to find this text. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. So again, the verse is vigilant the moment a delusion appears to my mind. Endangering myself and others, I shall confront and avert it without delay. And I think he nailed it. I mean, but we have to put a little thought into it, because he did comment like how, for example, anger and clinging and attachment, things like that, they look like friends to us now, right? Anger protects us, attachment makes us feel good, and good relationship where we're clinging to whatever, we feel a little bit of bliss sometimes associated with those situations. We buy a new car, we buy this, we do that. We fulfill our desires for a moment anyway, we feel good. But he says that, those things are in fact our enemies, and we don't see them that way. So we have to recognize, and it's interesting, the Buddhist perspective on the delusion is it's something that disturbs our tranquility. So that's important. A delusion is a state of mind that disturbs our tranquility. So we don't have to look very far to realize that attachment disturbs our tranquility, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not just making this up. Check it out. Or anger disturbs our tranquility. Or fear. Or stress. There's so many. I mean, the list, 84,000, in fact. That's what the Buddha said. So, there's so many states of mind. And this is where mindfulness, I kind of joke about mindfulness sometimes because it's just such a catchword now. You see it in every book. I mean, there's so many, you can sell anything if you just put the word mindfulness in front of it. But the mindfulness that we're talking about here from a Buddhist perspective is really, in the teachings on mind and mental factors, it's defined as recollection, like memory, but it's deeper than that. It's actually paying attention. What is the content of my experience moment to moment to moment? And when one of these disturbing states of mind, a delusion arises, the admonition in this verse is to confront it. Now, how many of us have heard, again, modern psychology being what it is? I'm not criticizing, I'm not saying that confronting our anger and maybe even going a little bit deeper into it may not, in some situations, be helpful. But, I know there was a time in the last 10 or 15 years where in modern, in psychological circles, anger, good, recognize it, express it, get it out there, vomit all over whoever ticked you off, and that somehow is going to make you better. Well, Buddhism has a problem with that. That's like, we would say, that's like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. We just poison ourselves. Clear, our tranquility has been disturbed. It's not going to help us. Now, not that there's not a place for fierce, forceful, powerful, compassion-driven action. Okay? We can be, in other words, we could be screaming our head off at somebody and look like fires coming out of every pore in our body and be motivated by wisdom and compassion. It's possible. This is what, those of you who, Yamantaka, the High Sugar Tantra manifestation of compassionate wisdom is all about. It was one of the initiations that we got when Khyentse Rinpoche was here. So any comments about what he said and what I just said?
So if you're in the Gampa, just raise your hand. If you're online, just either raise your hand and get my attention or type it in the chat. We do have microphones going around so that those online can hear us in here.
Robbie, is that you? Oh, I thought I saw Robbie's hand go up.
It probably did.
Yeah, and hold the microphone very close.
I'm just reminded of a saying I read somewhere that said, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So it's just another way of stating how we put our own projections and emotions into what we see. So we need to be mindful and study that carefully.
Yeah, good. To be sure, there's a psychologist here who wants to debate this. It's a good, I think this is a great admonition. This is a great teaching on the importance of being mindful, of paying attention to the content of our experience moment to moment, really not allowing ourselves necessarily to be swept away. Now, this is a fairly vigilant at the moment a delusion appears in my mind, endangering myself but in others, I shall confront and avert it without delay. Well, there are other ways to deal with anger, right? Without like taking a sledgehammer to it. But sometimes it takes a sledgehammer. Sometimes when we're experiencing anger, let's say all of a sudden somebody says something to us and they, boom, that was the button. And we feel a little bit of, we can, if we're paying attention, we feel anger arising in the mind. We feel some sort of negative fierce anger beginning to arise in the mind. Well, one of the first things that we can do is sometimes just by being mindful that anger is arising, poof, it's like a bubble, it'll disappear. Because we're realizing that that's not me, that's just a mind state, which is impermanent, arising. And so we just by giving sort of bare awareness to it, disappears. Has anybody had that experience? I mean, we all have, I think. Then another way to deal with it, again, this is where mindfulness is so important. We notice that the negative mind states arising, and I hate to use this example every time, but it's like we open our Dharma medicine cabinet, and which has our whatever realizations we have that we would categorize under wisdom or medicine to help us solve problems. And maybe one of those bottles of one of those medicine bottles, one of those wisdom teachings might be just seeing the impermanence of anger, right? So we notice the anger, we're aware of it, and rather than reacting to it and blurting out a bunch of garbage that just creates more ick, we just watch it. And what happens? What happens? We bring the wisdom of the awareness of impermanence to that moment, and we watch it. And does it last? No. It just, eventually, it just disappears. But sometimes it hangs on. It nagged, it's like a snake that bit us and won't let go. Then we have to go to the next level. And sometimes the teachings on being aware of the shortcomings of anger, reminding ourselves of how precious this life is. It's short. And the anger has many shortcomings, and almost nothing good ever arises from anger. Again, we're poisoning ourselves. And where is it coming from? As we just commented about, it's our own, everything from a Buddhist perspective, again, everything that we experience is the fruition of past karma. So the karmic appearance of somebody saying something annoying to us is what? Who created that karma? They didn't create it. We did. We planted seeds in our past to cause this particular manifestation, and we're forced to see ourselves as being yelled at because we've done it in the past. Now here it is again, something that we should use this as an opportunity to learn. Like, well, I don't want to see this happening to me again. I'm going to be really careful and not yell and not be mean and not be, not create the causes for this. And I'm not a victim. This is the fruition, as they say in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Shantideva talks about anger. He said, like, if somebody gets angry, if somebody hits you with a stick, you don't get angry at the stick, right? That would be stupid. The stick's not even though the stick is the thing that's directly harming you, it's the person that's wielding the stick that you would instinctively get angry at. In the same way, whenever we experience something that's coming back to us, that's causing us to suffer, the real, they're the stick. The real source of our suffering are our own former actions, our body, speech, and mind, motivated by ignorance. That's the teachings on karma. What goes around comes around. If it's coming around, we must have created the causes for it. So we get to experience that result. And if we can experience it with a little bit of dignity and tranquility and not react, the karma's finished, it's purified. But if we react again, if we react in turn with more anger, guess what? We just create another round for ourselves. That's called samsara. It just keeps coming back and back and back. So there's different ways to look at things. Of course, if you want to get I mean, of course, it's empty. There's no inherently existent enemy or negative thing that anybody said. It's just a bunch of sound waves, and we hear it and interpret it a certain way and make up stories about it and so on. I mean, there are many antidotes. There are many great medicines in our wisdom medicine cabinet that we can pull down and use at a particular moment when we're faced by delusion. Peter?
Carol, if Carol still has a question, she can go ahead.
We may be a little past this at this point, but Buddhism, I think, gets criticized because it's too passive, not taking enough action, and just thinking about how a lot of change, necessary change that happens in the world, comes from people having righteous anger against things that are wrongly done to them. I know I've heard the Buddhist response to this before, but I can't really remember exactly what it is. And I just wanted to know if you would speak to that, because I'm thinking about people who are attacked because of their gender or their sexual persuasion, those types of things, right? Where I can remember when gay pride parades first started happening, and I knew people who were very angry, like, why do they need to make that fuss? Why do they need to do all this stuff? And the fact is, their anger, their righteous anger, drove them. That doesn't mean they have to stay in an angry place, but sometimes how do you respond to the sense that sometimes anger is what motivates us to take action against situations that are very unjust, and that creates good change, a cause for positive change in the world.
Okay. I actually addressed that a few minutes ago, but anybody want to say something about that? I'll speak about it too again, but anybody have a thought?
Very quick thought. Perhaps, very quick. Anger does not bring positive change to the world.
Anger what?
Perhaps anger does not bring positive change to the world.
Okay. Anybody?
I'm just thinking sometimes it's the definition of anger is being used incorrectly. It's two different things. Whereas you've got the righteous anger is like you can be highly motivated out of compassion and trying to do good, and it may look like anger, but it's actually just you're highly motivated to do the right thing.
Right. So you're saying that, I mean, again, this is what I think I was saying earlier, that we could be screaming our head off. We could say, this is injustice, this is wrong, and even punch somebody or spank a baby. Sorry. Sometimes you have to, if your kid runs out in the street, and for the 15th time, and they don't listen, and you go, okay, you asked for it, bam. And they make the association between getting a pop on the bottom and running out in the street, and they go, oh, maybe I won't do that. So I'm saying but the motivation of the parent is not anger. They don't hate the kid. They're using they don't have, maybe they don't have the wisdom, the right words to say. They don't have the wisdom to say the right words. So that's what they use. But the motivation is a virtuous one. So it's a fierce manifestation of compassion. You get what I mean by fierce? It's addressing your question. Compassion has to be tempered, or I shouldn't say tempered, it has to be meshed with wisdom, of course, because there is this thing called idiot compassion. You heard of that one? Yeah, you might want to look into that. Just idiot compassion, like it's like me running over to Wake Med tomorrow morning to do open heart surgery because I really want to help somebody with a bad heart. And I'm going to run into the operating room and grab that saw and, wait a minute. I haven't been trained to do this. I'm not skilled. I don't have the wisdom to do it. So I have the wish, to stop the suffering, but I don't have the wisdom. So wisdom, compassion, always, again, those are the two wings of the bird to enlightenment. We always talk about those two as being two key factors in Buddhism, but we also have a simplistic view of compassion, that it always has to look a certain way. And I think it gets us into trouble, because then there's no wisdom with compassion. There's sort of this kind of a mushy, kind of not helpful. I mean, again, it's not, we have to look. We just have to check and see if our wish that others be free of suffering and its causes, which is the definition of compassion, is it tempered with wisdom? So important. It's a great question. And it is possible to interrupt injustices in a fierce, powerful way, motivated by pure love and compassion. Theoretically, I will end with that. Peter, you had something to say?
Okay. Let me see if I can refire the brain here. Yeah, I think sometimes I get very caught up on my opinion about something, whatever it is, around what's right and what's wrong, and I really get wrapped very tightly about that. So whatever it could be, but I think the more I'm able to, for me personally, take the emotion out of it and then look at both sides very clearly, then it becomes, I think, more of a clear picture, which is a little more wise. And no matter how much you think you are right, there's so much more to that. And I think what Elise said was brilliant, was really brilliant. If I can transition, I did earlier what I wanted to kind of point out, like on an individual level, if anybody has, when you have some person who is a great teacher in your life, a great guru, who gives you these opportunities to practice, sometimes it can be a very heavy dose, and you can have, things can arise that are super powerful. If you want to talk about fury, maybe not a good fury. And for me, there's one technique that I love to share that's phenomenal from Pema Chodron, that is an acronym, because sometimes it's like, sometimes you have situations and you can't be reflective about those situations, right? You can't, the medicine cabinet, it's just, you have to go straight to something that's a little more quick and practical. So it's just like on an aviation checklist, if the engine goes out, there's no time that you have to follow this procedure. Boom, 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 boom. So I love this technique, because for me, when the really powerful emotion comes, it's called fear. And it's not about being fearful, but it can be used for anything. And it's feel it in your body. Where is it in your body? Because it can manifest, anger or whatever it is, can manifest. And then once you identify that, where it's at in your body, then you embrace it. You kind of hold it, kind of like have compassion. And then the A is allow it to pass. So like I just, if I follow this and I just follow this technique without thinking about, well, this person did this or that or whatever. Then the last one, the R, is remember all the other people that are going through exactly the same emotion, potentially right at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that really kind of touches my heart about, I'm not the only one out here that's going through this or that or what have you. And I just think this is if I can just put my mind directly on that, and I say, I'm going to give this 20 minutes, and then I do, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saved myself from creating a lot of bad karma. That was a little long-winded, but I think it's a great technique.
Yeah, thank you. I think the key point, one of the key points here is that we need to recognize our delusions. Again, anything that disturbs the tranquility of the mind. And anger just seems to be the hot point right at the moment, but there are plenty of other ones. The main ones in Buddhism that we talk about are anger, attachment, ignorance, pride, and jealousy. And I have heard that the Dalai Lama teach this verse on numerous occasions, and he has said there may be some situations where anger is beneficial, He's not leaving the door closed, but he did say this, and I think this is hard to refute. That so what is the instinct of anger? Anger is, I want to harm you. Okay? That's the instinct of anger. That's anger speaking. If it had words, it would be, I want to harm you. But the Dalai Lama did say that when the mind is pervaded by anger, because we don't have one thing in the mind at a time, it's the best parts of the mind, which are compassion, wisdom, skillful means, power. The best parts of the mind are paralyzed. When our mind is pervaded by anger, the best parts of our mind are paralyzed. They can't function at that moment. And so maybe the real solution might be available to us if we could let go of the anger and look at the whole situation in a more holistic way. So anyway, let's do the next verse, please. If we have time. Maybe I ran my mouth too much.
This is stanza 4.
로정님의 세제도 저는 뭐 제다도 누가 잡고 용래를 저런 제대로 제바 다 가보 조제도 야부면 누가 근데 너무 빼져지러지 로정님의 세제 넘세는 나텔 기가 이사래서 먼저 저는 넘세는 망고자 안 되죠 네세서 네저 자자는 야대보네 로정님의 세제네 니도 잡에 내 동세서리 니도 잡에 내도 너도 전체도 제바다 가보 조사대 로정님의 세제들 누가 잡고요 되러와 대용 초고요 만 세제 전다도 누가 잡고요 다때 그러 이제 잡는 거 로정님의 세제 세야다 가르를 주시나 누구 너마 제도제 나텔 그때 마고나제 전에 로정님의 세제 네 세제는 가치를 세제 전다 tunuले 로정에 세제데 시때네 호텔 디두 잡에 노테테 런체테도 잡아다 제바도 자테테 제도 단도드나 로정에 세제 생한테 코로가 샤체도 마리와 정정 전에 응네 돈에 두링에서 정정체 류제고네 두링에서 정하기고네 두링에서 전에 미스가 라나요 자원년에 많이 계절 로정에 세제세야 됐어.
So here, can you read the next stanza, please?
It's on page 162 in the Gold Prayer Book. Number 4, whenever I see beings that are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by violent negative actions and suffering, I shall hold such rare ones dear as if I had found a precious treasure.
The wicked in nature, wicked.
Yes, wicked in nature.
Okay. So here that rushing the being like by more like personality or nature's strong word. Personality like nothing good comes out of that person. Like when that person talk, it's all harsh word. The physically all this like hardly any positive deeds comes out of 3 doors: body, speech, mind. So that person is considered as like what the word the weakening. Yeah.
너도나 동보 랑정님의 세제대 하고 그래. 랑정님의 세제대 가는 세과를 주시나 오늘 랭화 예서고는 마리오 정조시 서도 투나 자래자. 그봐. 아니 라서체. 아니 노를 채용나 노라요 자래자. 되네 마체서나 자원인의 많이 계속하라. 텔 랑정님의 세제세야 됐어.
That person that like that nothing positive comes out of 3 doors. Go back to family, cause problem everywhere. So that is like considered as a nature, wicked nature, the main person. No? So then you maybe wonder, all this conversation that happened, Kishila translated very few words. Rinpoche is checking the pronunciation here, like there are certain some standards say nam, or some say ni. Rinpoche trying to, Rinpoche thinks the ni is the correct way to say the word in Tibetan. That's what's happening. That's okay.
Te ita ta kare lana manyege te ta koro dunga shu chebo depe gun reba dunga shu chebo che yone yutu kese ne ta cheche neche me de urela ta ngara tu lana nyege yor. Roba ta koro du tu ne pa checha neche me ne de do ja du tu do ja ta ngara tu lana nyege re te ita ne du trabe ne tong che sat. 그러 누가 잡고 제용되를 다 거리 유튜브에 대대와서 당가로 계좌시는 얘기요 봐. 내말 계좌시는 예로 제거요 말어 봐. 다 얘기요 다 제때도 제바다 예바가 총대 쇼사데 되레스.
So that person, like eventually, sooner or later, will find out like that trouble that caused by actions, what is in mind. Eventually, something here in America, you say they reach to the bottom. So then realize, oh, something needs to be changed. So then beginning is like that person may not listen to anything. So eventually the person will realize there's so much trouble being caused by body's being mind. So then more likely, and if you talk to that person, maybe say to Dharma talk, or then more like that person will listen. So that's good.
다 저로서 배자 전도 전에 통화라 소바 전에 쉬나? 그러봐. 가르 네 단다데 로정님의 세제 내세네 라자르바. 배자 전도 로정님의 세제 당 니들 잡에 내 통제해야 돼. 네때 괜히 소소소소소 시도 때때 라야 뇌된데 제보면 되스. 대당 내가 로정님의 세제 내세네. 니들 잡에 내가 로정님의 세제들 야자 있어. 저로서 이나 단다 신주 존에 계좌전에 저거를 배졌더니 로정님의 세제 당 니들 잡에 내 동생 생겼더니 라발레서는 되니 가르래 그서 저로서 다시었어.
There's like this very text has been written, the last word is written differently, so that kind of changed the meaning. If you like it will change the meaning. So Rinpoche chose the word. There's two words. The end of the sentence called tang or ni. Rinpoche choose ni because it makes more sense. Sometimes just one word could change entire meaning. So Rinpoche say that you should analyze then which one is more suitable, tang or ni. Rinpoche choose word ni. It has been written two different ways. So for Rinpoche, it's like ni is make more sense, whole entire sentence.
At the end of that one? Okay. So I'm going back to my one-page summary of some notes I took 25 years ago, probably, más o menos. Anyway, it says, create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. One good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. We can learn more from adversity. We can learn more from adversity than 10 days of teaching from the Dalai Lama. That is totally antithetical to the way I think. My ego does not want anything. I don't want to be around nasty people. They're saying, create a special relationship with people who are nasty to you. One good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. Okay? We will learn more from adversity than 10 days of teaching from the Dalai Lama. So that just kind of mind blower, isn't it? When we see people, whenever we see beings who are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by violent negative actions and suffering, I shall hold such rare ones dear as if I had found a precious treasure. Why? Who wants to answer that?
Because it's challenging us to develop our compassion, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. And so much more. What else?
because they are training us with patience, developing our patience. Now that I'm in a middle school, I'm a middle school Spanish teacher.
Yeah.
Oh my, I have so many precious jewels there, like a lot
Yeah,
of
you have
them.
like gurus. The whole class is full of gurus. David's got his hand back there.
The meaning I get from it is that even though we have our point of view and we're so wedded to its rightness, that just possibly somebody who is, greatly opposed to this point of view, there might be some facts or virtues to what they're saying, or some reason that we ought to try to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we'd rather really just bulldoze ahead and have the world go our way.
And be done with them.
Well, yeah, exterminate them.
Yeah. Get them out of here. Anybody else? Don cease.
I think as well as all the things that people have just been said, that these are opportunities to learn compassion and patience. People like that are really kind of rich sources for all kinds of practice, including, remembering impermanence, that, this isn't going to last, remembering that emptiness, they do not exist the way they appear to us to exist. Which helps to lead to compassion. Like, this seems like a completely obnoxious person, but there's something behind that. There's another person, there are other things going on.
Yeah.
If I can elaborate on that, this will be a lot shorter, I promise. Yeah, I guess we all have some precious jewels, don't we? Once in a while I'll get somebody like that that's just full on furious, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I know normally when I mess up, and then I'm like, okay, give it to me. But sometimes I don't, and I just look at the other person as like, or even myself in that moment, right? There's some suffering going on. There's some mental suffering going on. I tell my kids, like, don't just internalize what people are putting out there. If somebody's going off on you, that's not you. That's probably, maybe it is, but it's the person is actually in a very difficult state of suffering. And I think that for me makes it easier to lighten up about the other person.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
I think personally for me, the other thing is it pushes me to my boundary. Like, where my compassion goes, I go to the edge of it. Like, if somebody's nice to me, I can be compassionate to them. But if somebody's not, that's my boundary, that's my edge. And that's like the place I need to grow, where I need to work. Right. But there's also, it's exhausting too. So
this is what?
It's exhausting to do that. So, it's just little bits. It's not like you can live in that place for a long, long time, personally for me.
Yeah. So, again, this is like one good enemy at work is more precious than the Dalai Lama for you. We will learn more from adversity than 10 days of teaching from the Dalai Lama. I had this experience just driving here this morning, without mentioning any names of my family members, but one of the one of my in-laws, I guess you might say, she's sort of sick and really dying from cancer. I mean, her days are numbered, probably less than a couple of weeks. And her daughter was talking to me about how she'd been over there to try to help, but then her mom had reacted negatively, and then she took it personally. She was angry about, please don't mention this. Anyway, you don't know who I'm talking about, but she was quite upset at her mom and who's dying from cancer and is not well. And I listened, and I think, I sort of said, well, you have to sort of consider the context. And then as I was talking to her, I said, it's important. I mean, I'm just saying these are all choices we make. I mean, the way we respond to situations, it is a choice that we make. Maybe it's an unconscious choice, maybe it's a reactive choice, but it is a choice. And I said something that I thought, this would be good for me to remember. I said, maybe you should have, I think it'd be wise to, the words were basically be compassionate with your mom given her situation, but also be compassionate with yourself. That, you're just reacting like a normal human being would. And it's causing you to be upset. And so be kind to yourself and be kind, again, think about your mother's situation, try to have a more magnanimous attitude about that. And that way, that cuts your suffering. Again, it's drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. It doesn't work. And anger is always drinking poison. It's always drinking poison. It's always going to cause us, like I said, disturb the tranquility of our mind. It's always going to happen. So again, but as Buddhists, we can be fierce, right? We can have fierce compassion. We are not wimps. We can look at situations. Again, Yamantaka, in his house, we don't have a picture of him here, but he has got fire coming out of every pore in his body. And he looks as scary as any superhero demonic person you've seen on the screen. And yet he's completely motivated by wisdom and compassion. And that aspect of the enlightened consciousness actually is something that we could conceivably cultivate. But obviously, will take time. Maybe lifetimes, probably lifetimes, but a good place. Are we done?
Yeah, so since we are a little past time, before we do prayers, I'm going to hand the mic over to Sandy.
Let me just mention one book.
Sure.
So this book, it's I hope it's still published by Wisdom Publications in Boston. Little tiny thing. It's Training the Mind. It's a little commentary on the 8 verses of mind training by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This one came out in 1998. It's in Washington, D.C. In fact, Robbie and I were at those teachings at American University when His Holiness the Dalai Lama was given. You remember there was one other thing at that teaching that we were amazed at, Robbie. You remember what that was? Goldie Hawn was there. Training the Mind. She was sitting in the front row. We kept wondering, who is that person? All right. So Training the Mind by the Dalai Lama, Wisdom Publications, came out in 1998. Yes, Sandy.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Well, yeah, still morning. Okay. Sandy Carlson, I'm one of the volunteers here at Kadampa Center, and I wanted to speak briefly to you about our 2023 annual appeal. And our theme this year is creating a sustainable future. 2022 was an absolutely phenomenal, my favorite word, as everybody knows me. It truly was a phenomenal year. If you think about everything that happened in 2023 and how this community came together to do so many amazing things, just in November, December was probably one of the most special times that Kadampa Center has ever had, when Khensa Rinpoche was here for an extended period of time, giving teachings, initiatives, or initiations, and the community pulled together in preparation. Our grounds team started creating the beautification of the grounds. We created a circumambulation path around our center. our spiritual programs team got together, and they have been continuing not only our regular teachings and bringing more people back in here to the center, but also maintaining our online presence, which reaches to Mexico, Thailand, all across the United States. So we truly have hybrid teachings now, in person, interactive on Zoom, YouTube streaming. If you think about the reach that we have, I mean, that truly is amazing, and that we have to do both. So it creates a lot of work and a lot of extra work for our spiritual programs teams, but they're doing it. Outreach with Elise Strebel and her team and all of the things that they have been doing the past year. San Mandala up at Elan, they were involved in a lot of the climate change things. They're starting up in 2023 and reinstituting some of the activities they have. You heard about one of the fundraisers and drives that they've got going on right now with the, what's the name of that one? Note in the Pocket. So that donor drive is going on right now too. And they're also doing their love notes. So if on Thursday afternoons you want to come help write special messages that will be delivered to the Meals on Wheels recipients and a few others, she's got that group going together again. We have a lot going on, and we have had a lot going on this past year. If you go to our website, and you'll see the Creating a Sustainable Future 2023 banner, you'll also see the 2022 report that has a lot of beautiful pictures of our community in action. And that's part of why this works together, right? Why do you support the center? What's important about supporting the center, and why should you think about supporting the center if you aren't already? All of these things that we do, all of the things that our community does to pull this place together. Kadampa Center, our building and the operational structure is one thing. That enables us to come to some place to gather and some place to practice together. 99% of our community is our volunteers. We have a very few, of course, we support our Geshis, we support our Sangha, and we have one part-time office worker, but everybody else, we're all volunteers. And so the money that is necessary to support the building, pay the heat, pay the air conditioning, take care of some of these things, that's all one part of it. And then supporting our spiritual programs. And we still are one of the few centers in the FPMT that operates by a 100% Dharma, 100% generosity. We charge no dues. There are no fees to attend any of our classes unless there's some type of special event type of thing. But there's no fees, so it's almost a pay it forward type of thing. We've been here for over 25 years, and we are hoping for a sustainable future so that we can continue to be here and continue to offer the Dharma for free to as many people as possible. It's part of our mission and vision that we're able to do this, and we're doing this by the generosity of our community. 100% by the generosity of our community. We're working very hard to work on plans to continue this sustainability. And if you have the opportunity, if you're already a giver, I've had many people already coming to me to ask how to increase their donations, their monthly donations. That's how we are able to operate. So we can't thank you enough for being donors, sustainers, whether with your volunteer time or whether with your financial support. There are many different ways to give one time, whether through the donation boxes or whether online. Our monthly sustainers are truly how we are able to really plan for the future. So those that are able to give on a monthly sustainer method, that would be phenomenal, because it does help us plan a little bit better. You can go online. You can easily click on the donation box. You go to a secure online donation platform called Realm, where you have control of your information, your credit card information, your contact information, and you can easily walk through that process. If you have any questions, you can, of course, reach out to me. But it does make a difference, and it really will make a difference in the future, not only to yourself, but hopefully to all of the other people that we're reaching through our donations. We're working on some 2023 initiatives that you'll hear more about coming up. One of the things that we're doing that I think everybody's already heard about a little bit, and we'll have more information very soon, is Kadampa Center is going solar. That is something we've wanted to do for a very long time. Through the hard work of several very engaged volunteers and donations from some of our major donors, as well as a major grant, we're actually able to do it. So more information will be coming from that, but it does allow us to live in our values and be good stewards of the earth. Two more initiatives that I can talk about right now is the Buddha shrine that we're going to be working on. You've noticed that our garden Buddha is now inside. So we're working to build a new shrine outside so we can, again, increase our practice space. So that will be happening this year, and also a community garden area. It gives us more opportunities, engages our practice and our community with more space to be able to practice and communicate and spend time with each other. So those are some of the 2023 initiatives. Again, thank you so much. If you all can make your donations and maybe become a monthly sustainer and help us continue our sustainability for the future. So thank you so much for your time. You can find more information online, and you'll hear more in the coming probably weeks and months as to what's going on in 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. So we will do the dedication prayers, Shanti Davis, and they are on page 32 in the Gold Prayer Book.
Dedication is it's kind of, we don't think about what it means, but it really is a way of acknowledging that we've done something virtuous or positive. We planted, bazillions of karmic seeds on our mind stream that, based on our motivation, will definitely ripen. And again, if the motivation's positive, which we spent time in the beginning, generating a positive motivation, definitely will ripen as a cause for future happiness. So we want to, these karmic seeds, we don't want them to just ripen in the form of a new Tesla. We want them to ripen in the form of, supreme enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. So this is what this dedication is about. We're acknowledging our virtuous action and giving these karmic seeds a good send-off in the right direction.
Body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective, wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, yep, we'll see you all again next week.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Don.
I can't remember what next week is. I think Lama La might be leading us through a practice, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you back here either tomorrow night for Discovering Buddhism or next Sunday.
Thank you, Don. Bye. Bye. Thank you.